This chapter wasn't what you think. This chapter wasn't about Emu being strong. And I know that sounds crazy, because that's literally what everyone is talking about right now. Guess what they're talking about? Zoro got folded. Sanji got embarrassed. The Giants are hopeless. That's what they're talking about. But if that's all you took from One Piece chapter 1180, then you missed the entire point, right? Why? Because this chapter didn't just introduce power. It introduced a new system of power, a hidden flaw in the final villain of our story, and a rule that could decide the final war. And guess what the scary part is? The scary part? Oda didn't explain any of it directly. So if you weren't paying attention, you'd never catch it. Anyway, welcome back to the One Piece Club. Today, I want to introduce you to One Piece Rewind. What is One Piece Rewind? Well, One Piece Rewind is where we break down everything we did not see. So we're going to talk about these points section by section, and let's start with the first section. Let's start with what everyone saw. What did they see? Zoro and Sanji lost. Badly too. But the only way they lost is what matters. See, Emu did not struggle. He did not react. Straight aura farming. He didn't even try. No named attacks. No buildups. No dramatic clashes. Nothing. Just small movements. Bam. 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 Effortless control. And that is now how Oda fights. To be honest, that's how Oda writes his hierarchies. This was not a battle. This wasn't a battle. This was a message. This was a message, guys. A message that says, right? A message that says, you are not ready for this level. And that is what makes this moment so important. Because we've seen the Straw Hats grow. We've seen them defeat Yonkos, commanders, warlords, emperors. And now they look like beginners again. That is not regression, guys. That is not regression. That is recalibration. Did I say that right? Recalibration. Okay? And Oda is resetting the scale. And Oda is resetting the scale, and Emu is the new top. Now, I want to talk about the Omen. Because at first glance, it's just like fire. But to be honest, that is misleading. Omen does not behave like a normal ability. Okay? It has two completely opposite effects. One, it destroys the enemies and heals allies. That alone breaks the rules. Because, as we all know, in One Piece, abilities usually follow one pattern. Because as we all know, in One Piece, abilities usually follow one pattern or one path. Offense, defense, support. These three. But this here, this is all three at once, which tells us that there's something deeper going on. Emu isn't just using power, Emu is controlling the outcomes. And that connects directly to the meaning of Omen. An Omen is not just an attack. It's a sign, a prediction, and Omen is also a declaration of what's about to happen, good or bad. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. Emu isn't reacting to the fight. Emu is deciding how it ends. Some Yuha box shit. Now here's where things get dangerous. Because Omen might not be a devil fruit. ability. Omen might not be a devil fruit ability. It might not even be a standard ability. It might be something completely new. Like, think about how the attack feels. They don't just hit, they feel inevitable, like as if they were always going to land no matter what. That sounds, to be honest, that sounds like observation Haki. But taken further, much further, imagine this. Instead of seeing the future, you attack the version of the future where your opponent already loses. Like, bro, my mind was like, this whole chapter. Like, this changes everything. Because now, dodging doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Blocking does not matter. The outcome is already decided. That will make Omen a guaranteed hit system. And if that's true, then we're not just seeing a strong ability. We're not. We're seeing the next evolution of Haki. Now let's shift focus, because while everyone is watching the power of Imu, there's something else happening in the background. Something subtle, low-key, something subtle, something wrong, yeah? Because Imu's behavior, if you think about it, he forgets things. He asks questions he shouldn't need to ask. He reacts like he's missing information, and that is not normal. Not for someone who controls the world. That is not personality. That is instability. Is his form incomplete? Is there something we're not getting? And once you notice it, it changes how you see things. Because now the question isn't how strong is Imu? The question is now, what's wrong with him? That's the question now. Now, let's go deeper. Because there's also the possibility, in my opinion, there's also the possibility that changes everything. What if this isn't Imu's body? We already have clues. So what if this isn't Imu's body? Because he was coughing blood, he's acting urgently, he seems limited, even though we're seeing a grand scale of power being displayed in front of us. But that does not match an all-powerful ruler. To me, that matches someone under restriction. So what if Imu isn't physically present? What if he's using a vessel? What if he's using a vessel? A temporary body. That will explain the memory issues, the strange reactions, the urgency. And most of all, and most importantly, it introduces a weakness that we've been looking for. Because if the body has limits, then Imu has limits. Of course, the protagonist has such a short limit, which is basically him becoming old and having to eat to gain back his youth and his stamina in year 5. But that's another time. But we already are catching Luffy has to learn how to actually work on his stamina. We get all of that? Okay, cool. Okay, now let's move to the next part. Now, let's connect the design. The wings, the flames, the body. Is it clicking? Because that's not random. That's and that is a massive problem. Because we already know Lunarians are invincible. Nearly invincible. As long as they're active, as long as their flames are active, they're invincible. They cannot be damaged. So if Imu has that, on top of everything else, then this isn't just a final boss fight. This is an impossible opponent we have to face. Unless there's a condition. And in One Piece, there's always a condition. And this is where things get interesting, okay? Because Imu doesn't just attack freely. He uses hand signs every time. We've seen this hand sign, this one, we've seen this one, we've seen him use 3 different Omen attacks. That is not visual designs. Okay? That's structure. Okay? That means his power requires activation. And everything that requires activation can be stopped or basically interrupted. It can be broken as well, whatever you need to do. So the key to defeating Imu, in my opinion, might not be strength. It might just be timing. Now, let's talk about the moment that does not make sense. Okay? Imu asks, where is the king? Where's the king of elbaph? But he already knows the answer to that. So why ask? But that might not be a question. It might be a requirement. What if a king is necessary? What if a king is necessary for something? What if a king is necessary for something to be activated? Let's say a ritual, a system, a rule that is tied to his power. If that's true, then this little detail or this one detail changes the entire situation. Now, look at what is about to happen. Imu, Loki, we have fire, we have lightning. Those are the two things that elbaph cannot handle. Lightning and fire. And these two are already emitting huge amounts of them. And they're about to collide too, at full power. This is not just a fight. This is a disaster. And if this continues, this clash continues, elbaph might not survive. So, no. One Piece chapter 1180 wasn't just about power. It basically introduced a new power system, a hidden weakness, a broken ability, and a mystery that changes everything. And you know what the scariest part is? The scariest part is that we still don't understand Imu. Not fully, we don't understand Imu yet. And that means it's only going to get worse from here until it gets better. If you missed all of this, my guy, come on. Don't worry, I got you. That's what One Piece Rewind is for. So, I'll catch you guys in the next one. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. My actual video will be coming out soon as well for 1180. Appreciate you guys. What's that right here? Peace.